So it is January 16th, 2025 with the VIHE over the internet. And we're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 8, finishing up the chapter, verses 24 to 56. Alakshitogno padita patangamo yata nisringo jasiso surastada na tad vichitram kalu satvadamani swatejasa yonu parabibatamaha. Just as a small insect falls forcibly into a fire and the insignificant creature becomes invisible, when Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord, who was full of effulgence, Hiranyakashipu became invisible. This is not at all astonishing, for the Lord is always situated in pure goodness. Formerly, during creation, he entered the dark universe and illuminated it by his spiritual effulgence. Tato bipadya bhyahanam mahasuro rusha nasingam gada yoruve gaya tam vikramantam sadadam gadadharo ma oragam tarksha suto yata grahit. Thereafter, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, who was extremely angry, swiftly attacked Nrsingadev with his club and began to beat him. Lord Nrsingadev, however, captured the great demon along with his club, just as Garuda might capture a great snake. Satasyahas totkalitas tadashiro vidrik vikridato yadvat ahir gurutmana asadvam anyanta hitok shatomara Gana chada bharata sarvajishnya paha. O Yudhisthira, O great son of Bharata, when Lord Nrsingadev gave Hiranyakashipu a chance to slip from his hand, just as Garuda sometimes plays with a snake and lets it slip from his mouth, the demigods who had lost their abodes and who were hiding behind the clouds for fear of the demon did not consider that incident very good. Indeed, they were perturbed. Tanman yamano nijavirya sankitam yadashtamukto nirharing mahasura punastaraja asajata kadnakarmani pragnigyavenena gatashramo murde. When Hiranyakashipu was freed from the hands of Nrsingadev, he falsely thought that the Lord was afraid of his prowess. Therefore, after taking a little rest from the fight, he took up his sword and shield and again attacked the Lord with great force. Tam snena vegan satachandra vartmabis charantama chidram uparyado hari kritva taha samkara utsnanobanam nimi litaksham jaghemada java. Making a loud shrill sound of laughter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is extremely strong and powerful, captured Hiranyakashipu, who was protecting himself with his sword and shield, leaving no gaps open. With the speed of a hawk, Hiranyakashipu moved sometimes in the sky and sometimes on the earth. His eyes closed because of fear of Nrsingadev's laughter. Vishvakspurantam grahana turam harir Vyalo yatakthum kulishaksata twacham dwaryurum apachya dadara lilaya nakaryata him gauro mahavisham. As a snake captures a mouse, or Garuda captures a very venomous snake, Lord Nrsingadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thunderbolt of King Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his limbs here, there, and all around, very much afflicted at being captured, Lord Nrsingadev placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs, and in the doorway of the assembly hall, the Lord very easily tore the demon to pieces with the nails of his hand. Nrsingadev ki jai. Samrambadus preksha karalo lochano Vyatananantam vilihan swajivaya asriglavaktaruna kesharanayo yatan Yahantama li Dvipahatyaya Hari. Lord Nrsingadev's mouth and mane were sprinkled with drops of blood, and his fierce eyes, full of anger, were impossible to look at. Licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Nrsingadev, decorated with a garland of intestines, taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that has just killed an elephant. So again, we have the lion and elephant analogy. This is ghastly rasa. Nakan kurot patita rit saroruham vishrijitasanu charam udayudan aham samastan nakashastrapanibir dordhandayuto nu patam sahasrasaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had many, many arms, first uprooted Hiranyakashipu's heart and then threw him aside and turned toward the demon's soldiers. These soldiers had come in thousands to fight with him with raised weapons and were very faithful followers of Hiranyakashipu, but Lord Nrsingadev killed all of them merely with the ends of his nails. So remember, when he first appeared, he was killing demons with all of his weapons. Now, after killing Hiranyakashipu, he's just using his nails. Sata Vaduta Jalada Parapatan Grahastata Drisdi Vimushtaro Chitsaha Ambodhaya Swasta Hata Vitukshubur, Nir Hradabita Digiba Vichukshushu. The hair on Nrsingadev's head shook the clouds and scattered them here and there. His glaring eyes stole the effulgence of the luminaries in the sky, and his breathing agitated the seas and oceans. Because of his roaring, all the elephants in the world began to cry in fear. Daustat satot shipta vimana sankula prot sarpatakshna cha pada bipidita shala samut pe tur amusyaram hasa tat tejasa kam kakubo na rejire. Airplanes were thrown into outer space and the upper planetary system by the hair on Nrsingadev's head. Because of the pressure of the Lord's lotus feet, the earth appeared to slip from its position, and all the hills and mountains sprang up due to his intolerable force. He wasn't on, okay. Because of the Lord's bodily effulgence, both the sky and all directions diminished in their natural illumination. Tata sabayam upavishtam utame nirpashane sambrita tejasam vibhum alakshita dvairatam atyamarsanam prachandavakram na babhaja kashchana. Manifesting a full effulgence and a fearsome countenance, Lord Nrsingadev, being very angry and finding no contestant to face his power and opulence, then sat down in the assembly hall on the excellent throne of the king. Because of fear and obedience, no one could come forward to serve the Lord directly. Naisamyaloka trayamastaka jwaram tam adi daityam harina hatam nirde praharsha veg otkalitam manamuhu prasunnavarshad vavrishu sarastriya. Hiranyakashipu had been exactly like a fever of meningitis in the head of the three worlds. Thus, when the wives of the demigods in the heavenly planets saw that the great demon had been killed by the personal hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their faces blossomed in great joy. The wives of the demigods again and again showered flowers from heaven upon Lord Nrsingadev like rain. Tadavimana valibir nabastalam didrikshatam sankulam ashanakinam suranaka dundubayo twajagnire gantarva mukya nan ritur jagushriya. At that time, the airplanes of the demigods, who desired to see the activities of the Supreme Lord Narayana, crowded the sky. The demigods began beating drums and kettle drums, and upon seeing them, the angelic women began to dance, while the chiefs of the Gandharvas sang sweetly. Chatro Pavrajya Vibuddha Brahmendra Girisha Daya Rishaya Pitarasiddha Vidyadhara Mador Agaha, Manava Prajanam Patayo, Gantarvapsaracharanaha, Yakshaha Kim Purushastata, Veta La Sahakin Naraha, Te Vishnu Parshada Sarve, Sunanda Kumudadaya, Murdni Bad Anjali Putta, Asinam Tivre Tejasam, Idire Naras Shardulam, Nati Dur Achara Pratak. My dear King Yudhishthira, the demigods then approached the Lord. They were headed by Lord Brahma, King Indra, and Lord Shiva, and included great saintly persons and the residents of Pitraloka, Siddhaloka, Vidyadaloka, and the planets of the snakes. The Manus approached, and so did the chiefs of various other planets. The angelic dancers approached, as did the Gandharvas, the Charanas, the Yakshas, the inhabitants of Kinnaraloka, the Vetalas, the inhabitants of Kim Purushaloka. Kim Purusha literally means, are they people? Hanuman lives there. And the personal servants of Vishnu, like Sunanda and Kumuda. All of them came near the Lord, who glowed with intense light. They individually offered their obeisances and prayers, their hands folded at their heads. Shri Brahma Ovacha Natosmya Anantaya Durantas Shaktaye Vichitra Viryaya Pavitra Karmane Vishvasya Sarga Stiti Samyaman Gunai Swalilaya Sanda Date Vyayamane. Lord Brahma played, my dear Lord, you are unlimited and you possess unending potencies. No one can estimate or calculate your prowess and wonderful influence, for your actions are never polluted by the material energy. Through the material qualities, you very easily create the universe, maintain it, and again annihilate it, yet you remain the same without deterioration. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Shri Rudra Uvacha Kapo Kalo Yugantaste Hato Yam Asurol Paka Tatsu Tam Patjupad Upashritam Bhaktam Te Bhaktavatsala. Lord Shiva said, the end of the millennium is the time for your anger. Now that this insignificant demon Hiranyakashipu has been killed, O my Lord, who are naturally affectionate to your devotee, kindly protect his son Prahlad Maharaj, who is standing nearby as your fully surrendered devotee. Shri Indra Uvacha Pratyanita Parama Bhavata Trayatana Swabhaga Daitya Krantam Ridaya Kamalam Ta Griham Pratyadobi Kala Grashtam Kiyaridam Ahonata Shushrushtatam Te Muktistesham Nahi Bahumata Narasinga Paraikim. King Indra said, O Supreme Lord, you are our deliverer and protector. Our shares of sacrifices, which are actually yours, have been recovered from the demon by you. Because the demoniac king Hiranyakashipu was most fearsome, our hearts, which are your permanent abode, were all overtaken by him. Now by your presence, the gloom and darkness in our hearts have been dissipated. O Lord, for those who always engage in your service, which is more exalted than liberation, all material opulence is insignificant. They do not even care for liberation, what to speak of the benefits of Kama, Artha, and Dharma. Shri Rishaya Uchu, Tvam Nas Tapa Padama Atatad Atmatejo, Yain Idam Adi Purushatma Gatam Sasharta, Tad Vipraluptam Amunadja Saranyapala, Raksha Grihita Vapusa, Raksha Grihita Vapusa Punar Anvaman Staha. All the saintly persons present offered their prayers in this way. O Lord, O supreme maintainer of those sheltered at your lotus feet, O original personality of Godhead, the process of austerity and penance in which you instructed us before is the spiritual power of your very self. It is by austerity that you create the material world, which lies dormant within you. This austerity was almost stopped by the activities of this demon, but now by you yourself appearing in the form of Nrsingadev, which is meant just to give us protection. And by killing this demon, you have again approved the process of austerity. Shri Pitara Uchu, Shradani no Dibbu Buje Prasadam Tanujayar, Datanti Tirta Samaye Pi Ibat Tilabu, Tas Yodaranaka Vidirna Vapadya Archat, Tasmai Namo Nirharaye Kila Dharma Goptre. The inhabitants of Pitraloka prayed, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the maintainer of the religious principles of the universe. He has killed Hiranyakashipu, the demon who by force enjoyed all the offerings of the Shraddha ceremonies performed by our sons and grandsons on the anniversaries of our death, and who drank the water with sesame seeds offered in the holy places of pilgrimage. By killing this demon, O Lord, you have taken back all this stolen property from his abdomen by piercing it with your nails. We therefore wish to offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Shri Siddha Uchahu, Yo no Gatim Yoga Siddham Asadur, Aharshid Yoga Tapobalena, Nana Darpam Tam Nakar Vidadara, Tasmai Tubhyam Pranatasmo Nisinga. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka prayed, O Lord Nrsingadev, because we belong to Siddhaloka, we automatically achieve perfection in all 8 kinds of mystic power. Yet Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest that by the strength of his power and austerity, he took away our powers. Thus he became very proud of his mystic strength. Now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Shri Vidyadara Uchu, Vidyam Pratagdaran Ayan Uradam, Nyasedam Agno Bala Virya Driptaha, Sayena Sankye Pashuva Datastam, Maya Nasingam Pranatasmanityam. The inhabitants of Vidyadharaloka prayed, our acquired power to appear and disappear in various ways according to varieties of meditation was banned by that foolish Hiranyakashipu because of his pride in his superior bodily strength and his ability to conquer others. Now the Supreme Personality of Godhead has killed him, just as if the demon were an animal. Unto that supreme pastime form of Lord Nrsingadev, we eternally offer our respectful obeisances. Shri Naga Uchahu, Yena Papena Ratnani, Shri Ratnani Ritanina, Tadvaksha Patanena Sam, Datananda Namostute. The inhabitants of Nagaloka said, the most sinful Hiranyakashipu took away all the jewels on our hoods and all our beautiful wives. Now, since his chest has been pierced by your nails, you are the source of all pleasure to our wives. Thus we together offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Shri Manava Uchahu, Manavo Vayam Tava Nidesha Karino, Diti Jena Deva Paribhuta Setava, Bhavatakala Sa Upasamrita Prabho, Koravamate Kim Anushadi Kin Karan. All the Manus offered their prayers as follows. As your order carriers, O Lord, we, the Manus, are the lawgivers for human society. But because of the temporary supremacy of this great demon Hiranyakashipu, our laws for maintaining Varnashram Dharma were destroyed. O Lord, now that you have killed this great demon, we are in our normal condition. Kindly order us, your eternal servants, what to do now. Nice prayer. Shri Prajapatya Uchahu, Prajesavayam te Paresh Abhushrista, Nayena Prajavai Shrajamonisidaha, Sa Eshatraya Binavakshanustete, Jagan Mangalam Sattva Murtye Vataraha. The Prajapatis offered their prayers as follows. O Supreme Lord, Lord of even Brahma and Shiva, we, the Prajapatis, were created by you to execute your orders, but we were forbidden by Hiranyakashipu to create any more good progeny. No good kids. Now the demon is lying dead before us, his chest pierced by you. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, whose incarnation in this form of pure goodness is meant for the welfare of the entire universe. Oops. Shri Gandharva Uchahu Vayam Vibhote Natya Gayaka. Yenatma asad virya balo jasa kritaha sa esha nityo bhavata dasamimam kim utpatasta kushalaya kalpate. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka prayed, Your lordships, we ever engage in your service by dancing and singing and dramatic performances. But this Hiranyakashipu, by the influence of his bodily strength and valor, brought us under his subjugation. Now he has been brought to this low condition by your lordship. What benefit can result from the activities of such an upstart as Hiranyakashipu? Shri Chadana Uchahu Hare Tava Angri Pakajam Bhagavat Pavargam Ashritaha Yad Esha Sadhu Rikchayas Twayasura Samapitaha. The inhabitants of the Charana planet said, O Lord, because you have destroyed the demon Hiranyakashipu, who was always a stake in the hearts of all honest men, we are now relieved, and we eternally take shelter of your lotus feet, which award the conditioned soul liberation from materialistic contamination. Shri Yaksha Uchahu Vayam Anuchara Mukha Karam Biste Mano Gyanais Ta ihadriti sutena prapita vahakatvam satu jana paritapam tad kritam janatate narahara upanita panchatam pankavisa. The inhabitants of Yakshaloka prayed, O controller of the 24 elements, we are considered the best servants of your lordship because of rendering services pleasing to you. Yet we engage as palanquin carriers by the order of Hiranyakashipu, the son of Diti. O Lord, in the form of Nrsingadev, you know how this demon gave trouble to everyone, but now you have killed him, and his body is mixing with the 5 material elements. Shri Kim Purusha Uchahu Vayam Kim Purusha Tvam Tu Mahapurusha Ishvaraha Ayam Ku Purusha Nasto Dikkrita Sadubir Yada. The inhabitants of Kimpurusha said, we are insignificant living entities, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller. Therefore, how can we offer suitable prayers unto you? When this demon was condemned by the devotees because they were disgusted with him, he was then killed by you. Shri Vaitalika Uchahu Sabhashu Satreshu Tavamalam Yaso Gitvasa Parya Mahatim Labhanahe Yastwam Anaisid Vasam Eshadur Jano Dwisya Hataste Bhagavan Yata Mayaha. The inhabitants of Vaitalika Loka said, Dear Lord, because of chanting your spotless glories in great assemblies and arenas of sacrifice, we were accustomed to great respect from everyone. This demon, however, usurped that position. Now, to our great fortune, you have killed this great demon exactly as one cures a chronic disease. Shri Kinnara Uchahu Vayam Isha Kinnara Ganas Tavanuga Diti Jene Vishtam Amun Anukaritaha Bhavatahare Sa Vishnidjo Vasadito Narasimha Nata Vibha Vaya No Bhava. The Kinnaras said, O Supreme Controller, we are ever existing servants of your lordship, but instead of rendering service to you, we were engaged by this demon in his service constantly and without remuneration. In other words, they were slaves. This sinful man has now been killed by you. Therefore, O Lord Nrsingadev, our master, we offer obeisances unto you. Please continue to be our patron. Shri Vishnu Parshada Uchahu. So these are the residents of Vaikuntha. Adyaita Dari Nada Rupam Adbhutam Te Dristam Na Sharanada Sarvaloka Sharna Soham Te Vidhi Kara Isha Viprashaptas Tas Yedam Nidanam Anugrahaya Vidma. The associates of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha Loka offered this prayer. O Lord, our supreme giver of shelter, Today we have seen your wonderful form as Lord Nrsingadev, meant for the good fortune of all the world. O Lord, we can understand that Hiranyakashipu was the same Jaya who engaged in your service but was cursed by the Brahmanas and who thus received the body of a demon. We understand that his having now been killed is your special mercy upon him. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 8th chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Lord Nrsingadev Slays the King of the Demons. So, the summary of this section is that Nrsingadev appears from the pillar, kills Hiranyakashipu, and then various devatas, devotees, praise the Lord. So, big question that's answered here is, why do evil persons apparently enjoy the world and harass his servants in many ways? And the themes of this section are that the Lord protects his devotees and keeps his word, that when the demons are in charge, every aspect of the universe is perturbed, and that the Lord loves and respects his devotees even when they are acting badly under a curse, like Jai, Vijay, but he may still deal with them harshly. All right. Our first section is 24 to 33. Lord Nrsingadev kills Hiranyakashipu and the demons. So 24 to 28 is the fight between Nrsingadev and Hiranyakashipu. 24. Hiranyakashipu becomes invisible in the Lord's effulgence. And Prahlad's bhakti is what has invoked the goodness of the Lord that dissipates the darkness of Hiranyakashipu's ignorance. In text 25, Hiranyakashipu hits the Lord with his club, and the Lord picks up in this scene, and the Lord just picks him up with his club. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur said, then separating himself from the effulgence, he came before that form and struck it. I spelled this wrong. Struck it with his club. Okay, verse 26. When the Lord lets Hiranyakashipu slip away, the devas become afraid. They think, okay, the demon already took my home. He already took all these things from me, right, as mentioned in the prayers at the end. And now if he knows that we are cheering on his enemy and he's going to win, now he's going to kill us when he wins. Actually, the Lord is thus being playful, right? It's compared to Garuda with a snake. We see cats do this. Cats play with their prey before killing them. You know, we have a cat here at the temple, and hasn't done it lately, but for a while it was bringing me gifts frequently. So there were dead mice and shrews outside my door, and sometimes the cat, I have no idea why. I don't pet that cat. I don't feed the cat. I have nothing. I don't even talk to the cat usually, very rarely. I have practically nothing to do with the cat. So I don't know why somehow it decided that I was the person at the temple to propitiate with gifts. Maybe it wants me to feed him and pet him. I have no idea. Anyway, sometimes I'd see the cat playing with its prey. You know, it would bring a mouse here, and the mouse would still be partially alive, and the cat's batting it and pouncing on it like that. So the Lord is also doing this. 27. Hiranyakashipu thinks the Lord let him go out of fatigue. He thus attacks again. And here we have, of course, the point that sometimes evil people appear to flourish temporarily. And they think like that. They think, you know, I'm flourishing. Right? I got away with it. 28. Although Hiranyakashipu left no gap in his movements and moved as fast as a hawk, yet the Lord still captured him. And Nrsingadev's laughter frightened Hiranyakashipu, so that he was closing his eyes. And we'll have some exercises on this in the second half of the class. Okay, next section of verses is 29 for 33, where the all-powerful Lord kills Hiranyakashipu and the demons. So in 29, the Lord's nails kills the demon who could not be harmed by a thunderbolt. So he pierced them at the door, which was not inside or outside. He placed him on his lap, which was neither land nor sky. He pierced him by his nails, which were not living or dead or weapons. He killed him during the twilight, which was neither day nor night. So Lord Nrsingadev's condition after killing Hiranyakashipu, his mouth and his mane were sprinkled with blood. If you've ever seen photographs of lions and lionesses, so usually when they're killing their prey and they're eating, their face and their mane is covered with blood, sprinkled with blood. His fierce eyes were impossible to look at. He was licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue. He was decorated with a garland of the demon's intestines, and he resembled a lion that had just killed an elephant. There's one class where Prabhupada talks about the ghastly rasa, one of the 7 secondary rasas, and he talks about how sometimes people like to enjoy this rasa. And he talked about how one time he saw a man butchering chickens. And, when you cut off the head of a chicken, there's still some activity of the nerves. And so the headless chicken dances around. And Prabhupada said he saw that the butcher's son was crying and the butcher was laughing. He was enjoying this ghastliness. And Prabhupada said, if you really want to enjoy something ghastly, then you meditate on Nrsingadev. So this particular manifestation of Nrsingadev is definitely ghastly. But as we see in the prayers, he's in pure goodness. So we usually associate ghastliness with tamagun, but the Lord is above even sattvagun. So there is a transcendental, blissful, ghastly rasa. So those of you who've been to my Nectar of Devotion classes, so this is discussed in the Northern Ocean, the 7 secondary rasas, and there we discuss ghastliness. So verse 31, the Lord takes out Hiranyakashipu's heart, throws it away, throws him away, throws the heart away, then throws him away. So he's already put his intestines on as a garland. Now he takes out the heart. He actually looks at it, throws it away, and throws the demon away. Kind of how Hiranyakashipu pushed Prahlad off his lap, I would say. And then kills all the demons with his nails. Again, when he first appears out of the pillar, he's killing demons with his club and disc. In addition to his nails, now he's just using his nails. And the Lord can destroy a demoniac situation in a moment. He has thousands of arms and he's just killing all these demons. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Lord Nrsingadev was thinking, I was living happily in his heart, but how did this unfortunate person make anger and hatred live there as well? He pulled out his heart as if to inspect it. He used the buds of his nails in order not to damage the lotus of his heart. So in other words, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Nrsingadev took out the heart very gently as not to damage it and said, hey, this was my house. Why did you make it dirty? Lord Chaitanya says a similar thing to Amoga, the son-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, where he says, you're supposed to be a Brahmana and your heart's supposed to be clean. It's where I live. The Lord lives there. Why have you made your heart dirty with other things? Imagine, if you have a roommate who leaves a mess everywhere, right? Or maybe if you have a messy spouse or a messy kid or something, you're living with somebody and you would like things nice, and that person is leaving, food wrappers and dirty plates and dirty laundry all over the place. And they're like, what's going on? They're like, this is my house. Why are you making it a mess? So the Lord is like that. He's looking at our hearts and saying, hey, that's where I live. Can you keep it clean? Nice meditation also like this in the 7th verse of Manashiksha. Okay, 32, the Lord's form and brilliance diminishes his creation. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport refers to 1041, where Krishna says that all the glorious things in the world, if you take all the glorious things and you put them all together, all the beautiful, glorious, effulgent things in the whole material universe, not even just on this planet, and you put them together, that's just a spark of the splendor of the Lord. So it's not, it's reasonable that the Lord's personal form is defeating these things. So the hair on his head shakes and scatters the clouds. His eyes were brighter than the stars and the sun and the moon. Actually, the sun and the moon are compared to the eyes of the Lord. The clouds are compared to his head. His breathing agitated the seas and oceans. In the 12th canto, it says that the breathing of Kurma is creating the tides. His roaring made all the elephants to cry in fear. His hair threw the airplanes into outer space. His lotus feet made the earth appear to slip, and all the mountains sprang up. His effulgence diminished all the natural brilliance in the world. So, Prabhupada, I don't remember if it's this verse, and I didn't note it here. Oh, no, this is actually the next one, 33. Prabhupada notes that the fact that the Lord's hair threw the Deva's airplane into outer space showed that there were advanced civilizations millions of years ago with all the amenities that we have now. So modern humans we're all very proud, that we have our computers. We can have this class over computers. And we have indoor plumbing, and we have, indoor heating, central heating, and all these wonderful things, and cars and airplanes. My Prabhupada said all this also existed millions of years ago. So there's cycles that human beings and other residents of the universe have these things, lose these things, have these things, lose these things. But even now, even when human beings were living in the dark ages not that long ago, a few hundred years ago, the residents of the higher planets, they still had all these amenities. Okay, 34 to 39 is where the Devas celebrate Lord Nrsingadeva's victory, and the Lord sits on Hiranyakashipu's throne, and several Devas arrive there to offer respects and worship. So in 34, the Lord sits on Hiranyakashipu's throne. So he was finished fighting. Nobody came in front of him anymore. So whatever demons were left, they were just scared. They weren't opposing him. Now, we asked why he would sit on the throne. So normally the Lord sits on a seat that's offered to him by a devotee, and that seat isn't used by anyone else. We have the altar. None of us sit on the altar, right? We don't offer things to the Lord that have already been used. The exception is precious metals and precious jewels. That can be offered even though it was used by people, although it should be purified first. But in this case, the throne was used by Hiranyakashipu, was used by a demon, and it was never created for the purpose of pleasing the Lord. But the Lord considered Hiranyakashipu, he's actually my devotee Jai, and he considered the throne was a suitable place to sit. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, although his servant gatekeeper had been cursed, the Lord did not see him as giving up the identity. And here is something that I've mentioned in several of these classes, how, Krishna is really interesting like this, that if Krishna will find some good, even in something very evil, he'll find some way of interpreting it as good so many times. Also, no one offered him any service out of fear. So no one came, normally, like in deity worship, we offer the Lord a seat, idamasana, and then we offer him service. We wash his feet, wash his hands, we wash his mouth, we give him, flowers and incense and ghee lamp and fanning. So all these things are done, but no one did this because they were too scared. 35, the Deva's wives felt happiness and showered the Lord with flowers. In our modern society, we shower famous people with little bits of paper. In the Western countries, we have parades where bits of paper are thrown. So they were throwing flowers. 36, the Devas crowded the sky with airplanes. They're singing, they're dancing, they're playing instruments. And 37 to 39 is a list headed by Brahma and Shiva of the demigods who approach the Lord to pray. Then 40 to 56 are their prayers. They're praising Nrsingadeva for killing Hiranyakashipu and protecting him. Okay, 40. Brahma says the activities of the Lord and his devotees are wonderful and difficult to understand. Lord Shiva says Your anger is meant for the end of the universe. Now protect Prahlad. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Lord Shiva is saying, everyone is afraid of the final destruction on seeing your ferocious form. Everyone's thinking, now you're going to destroy the universe. But I'm not, because I know that the time of dissolution is the time of your anger. And I, as well, Lord Shiva is saying, Lord Shiva, I perform this action of manifesting as your anger to destroy the universe. I also think it's significant that Lord Shiva kind of directs Nrsingadev's attention to Prahlad. Like you got to take care of him now. And when Nrsingadev fully pays attention to Prahlad, of course, then he gives up his anger. That will be taught to you by someone else in the next chapter. 42, Indra, by killing Hiranyakashipu, we can now think of you in our heart. We're going to talk about this in the second half of the class. Srila Prabhupada's purport states that the presence of demons in Kali Yuga government makes it hard for the devotees to think of the Lord because their hearts are full of thoughts of demons. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. 43, the saintly persons, we can now perform austerity, the power of your own self. And this is fascinating. We could have a week's worth of class just on what does this mean, that austerity is the power of the Lord's self. Of course, Lord Vishnu says this fact to Lord Brahma in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto, right before the Chaturshloki, where he says, Atmaham tapaso, that I myself am tapasya. He says, tapaso hridayam sakshat. So that tapasya is directly my heart, and I myself am tapasya. So that's very interesting, because tapasya usually means suffering, and Krishna is full of ananda. So what does this mean? Quite an interesting discussion. I don't know if we'll have time to discuss it today. The residents of Pitraloka says the offering of water and sesames to ancestors was stolen by Hiranyakashipu and now has been restored from his abdomen. And it's interesting they say that, because you would imagine that if he's eating these things over a few years, I mean, he was in power for about 5 years, because as soon as he came back from his austerity, Prahlad was born, and Prahlad is 5. So, if he's eating these things over 5 years, they're not still in his stomach. But yet the residents of Pitraloka said, basically, we were starving. Hiranyakashipu was eating all our offerings, and we were starving. In 45, Siddhaloka inhabitants said the demon had surpassed us in power. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says they were also starving, and now they're relieved. In 46, Vijayadhara Loka said we were forbidden to use our powers. We offer you our obeisances. The Nagas in 47 says, Hiranyakashipu took our jewels and our wives, and now our wives are happy again. So, of course, Ravana does this too. He takes other people's wives, and I'm glad the Nagas took their wives back. You think, it was in a society where they weren't going to take their wives back, but they took their wives back, and they're happy again. And again, Prabhupada writes about the problems of having a demoniac government. In 48, the Manus say the demons reversed the laws of Varnashram, and we now await your order. I really like this prayer, because they're just saying, we're your servants, now tell us what to do. 49, Prajapatis, the demon did not allow us to create good children. We offer you our obeisances. So what interesting that this demon doesn't want good children. He doesn't want pious children in the universe. I mean, if you think about what's going on in modern society, where, anyway, people are so much encouraged not to be married and not to have children in marriage. Text 50, Gandharva residents. We want to dance, sing, and do dramas for you, but we were serving Hiranyakashipu, so we had to entertain him. We want to entertain you. 51, the Charna planet residents. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this. He said that he sleeps even in the bed of the heart of the devotees. Hiranyakashipu was sleeping in the bed of the heart of the devotees. Not tolerating that, you killed him. From today, you alone should sleep in their hearts. 52, the Yakshas said we had to carry his palanquin. 53, Kimpurusha residents said, you killed the demon because he was disturbing the devotees. And Srila Prabhupada's purport, he said, the devotees following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj should not be disturbed by the demoniac activities of the non-devotees. Rather, they should stick to their principles as sincere servants of the Lord and rest assured that the demoniac activities directed against them will not be able to stop their devotional service. The Vatailika resident said, "We used to be respected because of chanting your glories. You have killed him who is like a chronic disease." The Kinnaras, 55, said, "We were forced to serve Hiranyakashipu constantly and without pay. Having a mentality of asking people to do things without pay is demoniac." Sometimes we have this attitude in ISKCON that it's only service if you work voluntarily, and we don't want to pay anybody for anything. People should be willing to volunteer their service, and we should be willing to give them something in charity. Don't take things from people without doing something for them in return. Actually, Prabhupada says if you take something from someone without giving them something in return, you have to come back and pay them in another life. 56, the residents of Vaikuntha understood that the Lord was favoring his servant Jai, who had been cursed. So some interesting points here. That verse 24 is both literal and philosophical. That light dissipates darkness, that the light of Hiranyakashipu, of Nrsingadev dissipated the darkness of Hiranyakashipu, and in general, the light of the Lord dissipates darkness. The purport to text 30 describes the blood on the mane and the intestine garland as enhancing the Lord's beauty. Usually we wouldn't think like that, but another interesting point is that Hiranyakashipu had compared Prahlad to a diseased limb that had to be amputated, and the Devas compare Hiranyakashipu to a fever of meningitis in the head of the universe, and the Vaitalika residents compare him to a chronic disease. The Yakshas call Nrsingadev Panchavimsa, o 25th principle, the controller of the other 24 elements. So one should note these yakshas are nature spirits, and they control all the aspects of the elements. So that's why they're talking like this. The yakshas are who's controlling the mountains and the rivers and all these things. And we should note that basically all these prayers thank and glorify the Lord in relation to what those specific residents lost or what those specific residents had restricted because of Hiranyakashipu. So even the residents of Vaikuntha, they're thinking, hey, it was one of our fellow residents here. So they're all praying from their perspective. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Please take a break. And as I always say, take a real break. Get away from your screen and get out of your chair and take a real break. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Right. I'd like first to ask, why is Hiranyakashipu in the first verse here of the section 24? Why is he compared to an insect who forcibly falls within a fire? And we know that, of course, in the Das Avatar, the Lord is, Hiranyakashipu is also compared to an insect. An insect forcibly falling into a fire. Why is Hiranyakashipu compared like that? If people could turn on their videos, that's really nice. It's really hard to teach black rectangles. Hi. Because he's sabotaging himself. I like that. Yeah, okay. So the insect that goes into the fire is sabotaging himself. Okay, some other thought. Because he becomes invisible. Yeah, all right. Lost in the brilliance of the Lord. Okay. Why do insects go into fire? Oh, he's very luminous. The opulence of Hiranyakashipu is nothing compared to him. Nice, nice, nice. He was a pain for everybody. So, oh, I like that, Aja. Like an insect is a pain. You know, wasps and mosquitoes, they're irritating. Okay, I like that. Oh, okay. Thank you, Golokavasini, for explaining. But Advaita Krishna, we don't see you. Surya Gaur, we don't see you. Ramananda Krishna, we don't see you. Asit, we don't see you. And I don't know if, when people do that, I don't know if they're even there. Ekatya Mukti. Advaita Krishna, you want to explain that a little bit? Light attracts even demons. I like that, Murari. Yes. Krishna's attractive to everyone, even if they don't really
Ekatya
understand.
Mukti means like Sayuja Mukti, he becomes
Ah,
one at the time of death.
ah.
I should say Sayuja, not Ekatya. Ekatya is different. Yeah.
That it was like a demon getting Sayuja Mukti.
Yeah,
And in
because doesn't he? In a
yes,
way, when he dies,
yes.
of
I
course, he's
really
reborn. Yeah.
yes, yes. Very nice. I'm just thinking I should show you all a picture. I really like what Shakti Manta said. An insect willingly enters fire, attracted by its effulgence only for its destruction. So Hiranyakashipu is willingly entering this fire. He's willingly going to, he doesn't have to do that. He could have surrendered. He could have surrendered a long time ago. And he's willingly entering this fire of Nrsingadev, which is really, he's just being pulled to his own destruction. So I want to share something with you. This is an untouched photograph of Nrsingadev in Mayapur. No Photoshop, no AI. I don't think there was AI when this was created. The devotee who took this picture did not see the Lord like this when they took this picture. They went to the deity and they took this picture of the deity, and then when they looked at this picture on their camera, this is what they saw. So this is the deity of Nrsingadev in Mayapur. You know, like
Amazing
that.
picture.
Yeah, incredible picture.
Um,
Okay, there were yeah,
Mataji, what
yes,
was I was saying is just like Shishupal, but is there a difference? Is there a difference when Shishupal enters the lotus feet of Krishna? That's why I was
yes.
speculating and I said Ekatwa rather than Sayujya.
Well, yes, because Sishupal, his soul enters the Lord's effulgence after he dies, whereas here Hiranyakashipu is being overwhelmed by the Lord's effulgence during the fight. And yeah, so there's a difference. And Sri Radha has I'll just deal with these before we go on. What does it mean that he enjoyed the offerings? Okay, let me look at text 44.
You did mention part of the answer you gave while commenting on that text. You spoke about how he was literally eating their food and they were starving. But I'm thinking on the level of mysticism. What does this offering of these things represent? You know, like what does it actually mean he was enjoying it? Did he need those seeds?
Yes, so these offerings and most of the world's cultures have some kind of regular ceremony for doing things for your ancestors and your family. On the anniversary of their death, or like in Judaism, you do it at the anniversary of a person's death, and that's done by the sons and grandsons and great grandsons and so forth. But then there's also one day a year when everybody makes an offering to all the ancestors. So let's say somebody was forgotten or whatever, that they're kind of covered. And the residents of Pitriloka particularly, those are personalities where one of their big pious contributions was the creation of good children. One of the impetuses for having children altogether and having good children is that the children will then make offerings when you're in this Pitraloka. Think of it like, let's say in this life, an older person retires and they don't have enough money for the rest of their life. So they may move in with their children and their children support them. Or their children may support them in some kind of a retirement community. The children may help pay the bills. So the idea is you go to these higher planets by your good karma. But when your karma runs out, you can't stay there anymore. But other people can put good karma in your karma account. So your descendants, they can say, well, we're putting this in that person's karma account. And it is subtle and mystical. But this idea of making an offering like that. So Hiranyakashipu he was taking all this good karma He was taking all this love and this good karma, and he was enjoying it for himself. Okay, Ekanta asked this question of why were the soldiers not afraid of the Lord before, although they ran away from the demigods, leaving their families behind? Well, I'd have to guess here that this is just that sometimes when people get very angry, it overwhelms their intelligence. And so they were very attached to Hiranyakashipu. This is just a philosophical speculation, that they were very attached to Hiranyakashipu, and that when they saw him get killed, that they, out of great anger, they're just like they running into fight out of utter stupidity. Why are the yakshas the best servants? Does it say that they're the best servants? Let's see. The chief among your many servants. Well, that's their opinion of themselves. Vayam anuchara mukyaha. We are the chief of your servants. That's their opinion. I don't want to displease the yakshas. I'm sure they're very important servants. Yakshas are interesting. Yakshas are interesting. In the 4th canto with Dhruva Maharaj, they're both identified as saintly and as demoniac. It's one of the things we talk about in hermeneutics. At least it's in our hermeneutics course. I've never actually heard anyone talk about it there. I guess most people don't really care whether the yakshas are saintly or demoniac. They're like, who cares? We're just going to chant our 16 rounds. It doesn't matter. But it's just kind of interesting that in the same set of verses, they're described as like that. They're nature spirits. If we think about, again, in all the old cultures of the world, people recognize that there were beings with powers who were not celestial beings. They were not like angels. There were even like the Gandharvas, the Kimpurushas, they're kind of like semi-demigods. They're partial. The demigods are partial gods. That's what demi means. And they're kind of partial gods. But they have more powers than human beings. And every forest, every hill, every river has some being that is in charge of it, some mystical being. Every type of flower, there was this man who recently, he may even still be alive, that he performed austerities for many years, like 10 years, and then he was able to see and talk with these beings, and he started a garden in the UK, Fintorn Garden, where the way he gardened was by communication with these beings. And they would tell him what to plant and when to plant and how to plant things. And again, in all the old cultures, we have people talking about, fairies and elves and gnomes and leprechauns and whatever. Those are all yakshas. In Iceland, they take these beings, the government takes these beings very seriously. They call them the Hulu folk. And before they build a road or before they do anything, they have some kind of consultation with the Hulu folk. But these beings can also be mischievous. Again, all the old cultures talk about, and it's also discussed in the Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, talk about some of these beings can like capture you and bewilder you and take you to other realms. And, so they're kind of funny beings. They're beneficent in the sense that they're taking care of nature. They're taking care of the elements of nature on behalf of the Lord. They're managing the elements of nature, but they're also mischievous and yeah, you can't necessarily trust your dealings with them. And again, this is every culture of the world describes these type of beings.
Thank you.
Sure. So in verse 34, because of fear and obedience, no one could come forward to serve the Lord directly due to obedience. Okay, let's look at that. And I want to make sure I have time to go over the things I also want to go over. Okay, 34. Let's look at the actual term here. Because of fear and obedience. Okay, thereafter, seated, throned in full effulgence. Very much. I don't know, Prabhupada's adding that. It's not in the Sanskrit. So if we look in the Sanskrit, the only thing we find, so he had his full effulgence, Amartianum fearsome because he was angry, Prachanda terrible, he had an angry, terrible face, so nobody would come to worship him. And now this is just Prabhupada's just talking about the throne, about how he sat on the throne. So I don't know why Prabhupada's adding the word obedience. I can't comment on it. I don't know. Nothing from our acharyas and nothing in the Sanskrit. So sorry. All right. Well, speaking of thrones, in that same verse 34, so we have that the Lord doesn't always sit on the thrones offered by sages and purified with mantras. So why would he sit on this throne that was never offered to him at all, and had been used by a demon who never in that life had worshipped him? Your thoughts? We'll talk about Ajay, if you could save your question, talk about austerity. Yeah?
He's a Jai in the Vaikuntha, and he's an eternal servant of Lord. So that's why Narsiha sat on that, because he want to glorify the Lord.
In contrast, Jai was his servant previously, but he's not his servant now. And now he's just causing him trouble.
But still he's serving the Vishnu by fighting with him, that is his service.
Oh, I like that analysis. I like that analysis. Very nice. Yes, he was serving him by fighting. Actually, it was said Jambavan, of course, wasn't a demon, but Jambavan couldn't understand the Lord, but when he pleased him by fighting, then he was able to. Yeah, I think it was also Indra's throne, actually. I don't know. I mean, originally Hiranyakashipu sat on Indra's throne, but maybe then he made himself a new one. But that's a good point. Maybe it was Indra's throne. Mahalakshmi?
Just like the warriors, when they fight against their enemies, they took all their jewels and possessions when they are killed.
Oh, that's a good point. Not mentioned by our acharyas, but that's a good point. And the same thing here that Shakti Manta said, that Nrsingadev was running the universe, and by claiming this throne, he claimed the throne of the universe. Excellent. Although it's not said by our acharyas, the only thing that Prabhupada and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says is that because it's Jai. But those other points seem also very good points, that the Lord is taking the booty and he's reclaiming his position. All right, we had that question about austerity, so I'll go right to that one. So in 43, austerity is called the power of the Lord. And again, in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto, I brought out that Krishna says, Tapo me hridayam sakshat, the tapasya is very much my heart. And atmaham tapaso, I am austerity. So we have this question here that somebody asked. Ajay says, it is by austerity that you create the world. Why do the Lord need to do austerities to create? Well, in the same way, we can say, why does the Lord say that he is austerities and that austerity is his very heart? He says something similar in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He says that he is the penance. He personally is the penance of all the ascetics, all the renunciates. He is their penance. Any thoughts about this? What does it mean that the Lord creates through austerities, that austerity and penance is his very self and his very heart? Anybody have some thoughts about what that means? Oh, Advaita Krishna, I like your point about the throne also. Any thoughts about what this means about austerity?
Doesn't mean
saying
that
in
is a,
terms of yep, sir.
One person at a time. Advaita Krishna Prabhu.
yes.
It is being said in terms of creation. So it's probably referring to Brahma sometimes. And the Lord empowers Brahma through austerity. That could be.
That's quite likely because Brahma is sometimes identified with the Lord. As sometimes, I mean, the universe is considered the body of the Lord, and sometimes the universe is considered the body of Lord Brahma.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brahma creates through austerity. Or we could even say that even if we're not identifying Brahma with the Lord, that the Lord creates through the austerity of Brahma. And the austerity of all the devotees. Yes, 2924. That's exactly what I was quoting. I didn't remember the number. Ajay Prabhu, yes, something you wanted to say?
Yes, Mother. So austerity is something like tapo divyam putra gayena satvam sudaye satvam. So austerity is something the Lord considers very important, close to his
Yes.
heart in a way. And he says that we should do austerity. Like Veda Krishna Prabhu said, the universe starts off by Brahma doing the austerity under the order of the Lord. When Lord said, "You should do tapaha," that's the first word he heard. That's something close to his heart is revealing.
And that close to his heart, he said it is his heart. He said, Tapo me ridayam sakshad atmaham tapaso nirga. He's talking to Brahma. He says, austerity is my very heart. I myself am austerity. Prabhupada also translate that as penance, which is, in English, there's a different shade of meaning between austerity and penance. So that penance means something that I do to rectify a wrong. You know, I stole something from you, so I pay for it. I hurt your feelings and I do something to restore the relationship. That's a penance. And austerity is something that one difficulty that one takes on voluntarily.
So another thing we see is that Narayan Rishi is still doing austerity.
Yeah, that's also interesting that the Lord is doing austerities. I mean, I can understand why we have to do austerities and penance. You know, I gave the example, the metaphor the other day about, you know, the unfaithful spouse who wants to restore his relationship. He's got to do some austerity and penance. For sure. He can't just come back to his wife and said, I had 50 affairs. Now I love you. That's the Sahajiyas thing, you know. We're not going to do any austerities and penance. We're just going to pretend that we're already. They always choose to be gopis too. Isn't that interesting? They never choose to be cowherd boys or peacocks or something. They always want to be gopis. So, but if we really want to rectify ourselves, and another metaphor that I give is that if someone becomes an addict, if someone is addicted to some kind of drug or alcohol, they have to do austerity in order to get free of that addiction. Someone who was never addicted doesn't have to do any austerity to avoid the addiction. So, you know, any of us, if we were never addicted to tobacco or drugs or alcohol, then refraining from these things is not an austerity. We don't even notice that we're refraining from them. You know, I don't even notice that I'm not taking intoxicants. It's because you never took them. It's no austerity. And also there's some penance involved. I know that with Alcoholics Anonymous, that one of their points is that you should try to rectify anyone you hurt because of your alcoholism. That you know, if possible, you should seek out the people that you hurt and you should do something to rectify. So both austerity and penance are there. So that makes sense for the conditioned souls. It doesn't make any sense to me for the liberated souls. Why do they have to do austerity and penance? Like those of us who've never been addicted to some drug, we don't have to do austerity and penance. We're just happy. So why does the Lord need to do, why is he himself austerity and penance? Mahalakshmi, you have some thoughts on this?
Yes, I I became addicted to smoking, and I had tried to give it up several times before meeting the devotees. I was becoming vegetarian and that trying to give up smoking. But when I met the devotees, it was boom, because it is so pleasurable. Everything which was around the devotees. It was not austerity at all. So similarly, that austerity that takes us to Krishna is not actually austerity, because it's Krishna's heart, is what the natural state of the soul to please the Lord.
Beautiful. Ravindra's Prabhu had a same experience, that he was addicted to smoking, and as soon as he started chanting, he just lost his taste without any austerity. Whereas usually when people want to give up smoking, it's a huge austerity, right? It can take them years. Like you were saying, you tried previously, and they may have to do all kinds of interesting things. So yeah, because then we're in touch with Krishna's heart. So the austerities don't feel like austerities. Actually, one of the components of sattva gun is that austerities don't feel like austerities. That the austerity also is joyful. In tamagun, even pleasures are painful. In rajagun, your pleasures are pleasurable and your austerities are painful. And people in rajagun are very proud of their austerities, and they're very proud of the pain of their austerities. And in sattva gun, both the austerities and the pleasures are pleasurable. That you don't see austerities as austerities. And we have some idea of that. Prabhupada talks about the mother taking care of the child, and cleaning the child's diapers or nappies, depending on where you are in the world. And, you really don't think it, not with a little baby, maybe with it, if your kid's still in diapers when they're 3 or something, but, with a little baby, it's not actually an austerity. It's actually pleasurable, cleaning up their little butt and making it all nice smelling and putting there. It's pleasurable. You enjoy doing this service for your child. You don't think of it as an austerity at all, right? Whenever there's love. Yeah. And actually, in one sense, we could say that austerity and penance are the essence of love. That doing something difficult for someone and rectifying when you do something wrong. And actually, Krishna is always doing this. So first of all, Krishna is always intentionally offending the gopis and then apologizing. He does it all the time. And and he'll do it over and over again. He'll offend them and then apologize and then offend them and apologize. And that actually makes their relationship sweeter. And also, Krishna is taking so much trouble for his devotees. But to him, it's not trouble. It's just love. So this is, right, the verse, Yogakshema Vaham Yaham. And is this trouble? Normally, it would be trouble. If I'm taking care of everything you need, then I'm going through some trouble. For the Lord, it's not like that. But yeah, that's... So, or you could say austerity and penance is very hard. It's kind of the essence of love. Love is not just, and that's ultimately how we show our love. Okay, in 55, I want to talk about something that's very important to me personally, because as many of you know, I worked with a co-author, Dr. Ruchira Datta, aka Urmila Devi Dasi, and about 1.5 years ago, is it? Maybe more than that. We published this book, Career Dharma, on the Varna part of Varnashram. And something that's been of great interest to me over the years has been how to create an actual society. Not just that we have temples where people go to, and not just that we study the Bhagavatam like we're doing, but that we actually create a society. And I'm seeing that our attitudes in ISKCON about money and remuneration mitigate against creating a society. They make it very, very difficult to create a society, which has to have an economic basis. So we have this verse here right? In 55, right toward the end of the chapter. Who was it again? Who didn't get paid? Go down to that verse. That was the Kinnaras. So the Kinnaras, they said that they usually serve the Lord, but now they had to serve Hiranyakashipu and he didn't pay them. A similar thing happens in the story of Jud Bharat and King Rahugana, where Rahugana didn't pay his palanquin carriers. And they just captured Jud Bharata. He's just like hanging out, walking down the road, acting deaf and dumb and dirty. And they just say, well, here's some really stupid guy. We'll just make him a palanquin carriers. But it was interesting. They said that he wasn't paying them. So does it mean that the Lord pays them? I guess so, Sri Radha Govinda. Because they were really upset. I mean, this is one of the things that demoniac rulers do, is that they force people into slavery. So any thoughts about this remuneration bit? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but I'd like to hear from all of you. Mahalakshmi, yes?
Well, it is said that as we give 1 to the Lord gives 10 to us. So he does pay. He gives more than what we give.
Okay, but I'm not talking about the Lord. I'm talking about in a society, having a society, how we deal with each other in a society, within ISKCON, and if we want to build a greater society in the world.
So our society should be a reflection of how the Lord deals with everyone. Not only devotees, also with demons. He gives them liberation.
So we should go around liberating the demons. But I'm particularly interested in this idea of remuneration for society. Anyone else have any? I like that Mahalakshmi saying that we should have our society a reflection of the Lord. He doesn't have to pay, okay, but sets up their means of prosperity. Similarly, we need to create a Sankirtan economy. I have no idea what you mean by that, Advaita Krishna. What is a Sankirtan economy?
As our preaching increases, and if the congregation grows, like in Mauritius, I give you an example. In Mauritius, the congregation has grown so much that I in the beginning years, now still at Grihastha, I had 3 vegetarian restaurants, and I was maintaining my family with that. But then as the congregation went on up and up, now we have 15 vegetarian restaurants, and of course, I don't have any business anymore. So this is just one example. So as the congregation grows, and similarly other things like devotees are bringing in paraphernalia, people are also thinking of rearing cows, because as the Sankirtan goes, the needs of that Sankirtan community, ISKCON community, is different. It is based on the expansion of the Krishna consciousness congregation, Krishna consciousness movement, and the needs of these devotees. Like I encouraged one devotee, I said, why don't you import altars? Because so many devotees want altars here. And he started doing. But this is not an institutional thing. I think it's like, I struggle to see how this can be integrated within the organizational structure of ISKCON, or this is a larger, base of community of Vaishnavas who have different needs.
Ajay Prabhu, your thoughts?
I would like to continue my something I said about water a few days ago. So all the resources that we use in forms like this pencil. When I buy this pencil, I actually pay for the labor that went in developing the pencil. I didn't pay for the material because it's Krishna's. So in the same manner, when I'm paying for everything I do, any pen I buy, anything I buy, I pay for the labor. So why not, if I am taking some service from a devotee, that I should give him back something, a gift or in some form of return, I have to give him either barter with a product as a gift, or should give him some money, because he or she has dedicated his time in the service, and to encourage him or her to continue doing the service. Otherwise, how will he sustain?
Thank you. Thank you. I think sometimes we have a taking mentality, you know, and just asking everybody give, and not thinking of how to take care. And I don't remember the name of the book, but it was maybe it was Predictably Irrational. Anyway, there was one book I read that was making this differentiation between a family mood and a business mood. That in a family, you don't go to your grandma's house and offer to pay her for the meal. Then she would be insulted. But you can go to your grandma's house and for a meal and give her a gift. In fact, you could give her a very expensive gift even, and she wouldn't feel insulted at all. And that we have a sense in a family that we can give everything, but we also have a sense that we're going to get everything back. Like you have a sense that if I do everything for my parents and my children and my brothers and sisters and my aunts and uncles, that they'll also be there for me when I need it. But it's a very informal kind of exchange. It's not, you're not calculating how many hours and things like that. And sometimes, of course, we do exchange money even in a family. Sometimes we may say, you know, can you buy this for me and I'll pay you back for it. And in a business, it's quite different. In a business, you're doing this amount of work and you get paid this amount of money. And people don't want to work beyond what they're paid, and people don't want to pay beyond what somebody's work is. And if we're going to have to say ISKCON is like a family of love and trust, then we need to reciprocate like a family reciprocates. You can't like mix those two things very well. You know, if they're mixed, if you're running a family business, for example, then you really have to differentiate what's part of the family and what's part of the business. And I like what you're saying, Advaita Krishna Prabhu, that this as of a society goes beyond the institution. And I see that part of the mandate of the institution is to help people create a society where there is an economic exchange, where there is a proper economic exchange. Okay, we have some nice things.
Yeah,
here.
the institution has to represent the Brahminical order, and like the collaboration of the Brahminical order with the Kshatriyas in a way, so that the other community can also be happy in service and also in maintenance and the prosperity.
Well, that's true if a temple, like the temple here where I'm staying, this temple is only a temple. That's all it is. There's a temple and a school here. That's it. There's nothing else going on. I mean, there's a gift shop, sort of, kind of ish. I mean, it's not even like behind a locked wall or door or wall or anything. It's just have all the things for the gift shop are just sitting out in the open, and somebody takes care of it once a week. And, you know, it's not really much of an anything. And, you know, devotees go out and do book distributions. They preach in universities. They do Harinam, but there's nothing else going on here. So I've been in communities where, you know, there's a restaurant, there's a guest house that people pay for, there's, you know, actual gift shop, like a boutique that's like a business, where there's lots of families living on the temple, you know, property that's owned by the temple. I mean, the biggest example of this, of course, is in Mayapur, where you actually have something that's not just worship and education. Where if it's just worship and education, then, you know, you really only need brahmanas, and only a certain narrow range of brahmanas. You don't need brahmanas who are, you know, astrologers and Ayurvedic doctors, and you just basically just need pujaris and cooks and some people who can give some classes, and that's about it. And it's usually good to have a few sudras on the property, so if something breaks, you don't have to wait until a repair person can come. But again, a very narrow range of sudras You really just need like some kind of a handyman. And you don't really have then a community or society. And the community or society exists outside of the temple. Just like in any, city of the world where there's a church or a mosque or a synagogue, and then it's not, the society exists outside of that. And I like what Shaktimanta is saying, that if someone dedicates their life to the movement, then the movement has to take care of them. This has definitely been a problem. But also setting up a society. And yes, this point made here by Prasant, that one of the big problem is maintaining, okay, we have best to operate in their Varna. And so you're paying everything for everything, Nardarishi. See, but people should be paying you. I mean, the people who come to the Sangha should be giving you donations. And this culture needs to happen in our Hare Krishna movement. That if I'm regularly attending someone's Sangha and they're running it, then I should be making donations to the Sangha. Yes, exactly, 1713, Ajahn Prabhu. This is something that struck me for a long time. That if there's yajna without remuneration to the priest, it's in the mode of ignorance. And especially Prema Manjari is saying the most problematic is remuneration for brahmanas. There's a widespread conception of brahmanas have to do service without any remuneration or just a symbolic remuneration. I'll give you a flower kind of thing. I mean, actually, I always tell people like if you want to have some consultation with me, you have to at least give a flower for my deities. You have to give something. I mean, what I was told is that, if people don't give anything, they don't get any benefit. I mean, Prabhupada says if you don't give anything, then you're in that person's debt in another life. But I've also been told a person doesn't get any benefit. So like Prabhupada didn't want us to give out his books for free, that people wouldn't get the benefit. And brahmanas are in a very difficult situation in society. Prabhupada talked about, I've heard in several different classes where Prabhupada was saying that the brahmanas used to all be trained in Ayurveda and Jyotish. And so they would go door to door. And he said, because everyone's interested in their health and their future. So you go door to door and you give them information about their health and you give them information about their future. And then they're going to give, then they're trained to give in charity for this. And then you can also use that opportunity to speak to them on transcendence. Also in the Vedic society, the government, the Kshatriyas, were trained to give charity to the Brahmanas. They actually maintain the Brahmanas. I know in Hungary, some portion of tax money goes to maintain all the churches. And you can indicate on your tax form if you want that percentage of your tax money to go to a particular church. So I don't know if it's still happening, but for a long time, the devotees there, ISKCON there, was getting a lot of money from people putting down Hare Krishna on their tax return, that they wanted some portion of the money to go to their tax return. I mean, Nardarishi, unfortunately, at the present time, you may actually have to charge people for things. Just like in running a Gurukul, if you don't charge people tuition for the school, your school will fail. It just is. If you don't charge tuition, they'll bring you a sari, they'll bring you a bag of rice, and you can't pay your electrical bill. So, you may have to say that this is, there's some donation. I mean, we have, like, there are some nonprofit museums and stuff that say, you have to give some donation to enter, and they suggest what that may be. And the other problem with brahmanas is that brahmanas are not supposed to specifically work for a salary. The reason for that is so they won't be influenced by money to skew the truth. That's the reason for that. And the work that Brahmins do is not generally appreciated in society as practical. And so people have a hard time paying for that. I understand that's why Prabhupada said the Brahmanas would all learn Jyotish and Ayurveda, because then people saw it was something practical and they would pay for it. Yes. So if they'll pay $1,000 for a wedding outfit and yet pay less than $100 to the priest. Yes. So therefore, people have to be trained, actually. People have, I mean, it's something I see for Indians born in India. I see if an Indian was born and raised in India, there is some training that the people who don't set a price for their services and don't ask for money still need to be given something in charity. The Indians who are being born outside of India and raised outside of India are losing this. And you definitely don't see it in many other cultures. So, I mean, in America and in most of Europe, people feel that if they're expected to give something, they will be told that. And if they're not told that, they're not expected to give something. This is why Narada Rishi, I'm saying that you might want to actually put that out there, because people might be willing to give, they just don't know that they're expected to. And they may not know your situation. They may think you're living off an inheritance from your great Aunt Sally. You know, because it's considered rude to ask somebody, you know, how are you paying your bills? So just, it's a different culture. And in the, again, like I'm not sure about South America or Japan or Nigeria, but I know in the United States and at least in Northern and Western European countries, that if people aren't told that they're expected to pay something, they don't know that. They just don't know that. They just have no idea. And, you know, it's not that they don't care and it's not that they don't value it, but they may think it might even be rude to offer some money. You know, just like you're not going to pay your grandma for cooking lunch for you. So, you know, it's, but if someone asks, like my granddaughter makes dinner for me most days, I eat with her family. And when we were making that arrangement, she said from the get-go, she said, Grandma, if you're doing this, can you contribute to our food bill every month? She said, if you're going to be eating here, you know, like 5-6 days a week, it would really help if you contribute to our food bill. So I said, sure. And we actually, you know, we worked out some arrangement like that. So so that may also have to be there. Otherwise, there can be long-term resentments and problems. So this is a very deep subject. 10 cents. Oh my God. Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh my God. See, this is the problem, that if we're actually dependent on such things and we just say, just give whatever you want, then, you know, they may give you 10 cents, which is an insult. It's actually insulting. By the way, like when people ask me for help and stuff, I personally never put a price on it. I mean, I'm a Vanaprastha and my situation is different than when I was running a school and I had to put a tuition price on the school. But sometimes I'll directly say to people, you need to give something. And sometimes I'll just ask people for things. I'll just say, hey, would you do me, would you get one of those flowers over there I can bring back to give to my Giriraj? Or sometimes I'll even give them like a cough drop wrapper and say, would you throw this away for me? You know, I'll ask them to do something. Would you get me a cup of water? Or I'll ask them to do something so that they're not going to be in my debt, you know, like that. To have something like that. But we should definitely never have the mentality that I can just take from people. I mean, one of my huge anxieties, because so many people help me out so much with so many things, is am I giving enough? Am I actually doing enough for people? You know, I was recently in Durban, and you know, they pay my ticket there and they pick me up from the airport, they drop me off at the airport, they give me a nice place, they gave me a nice place to stay. And then I didn't need this, but they were cooking specially for me every day, even though I said I can take the devotee prasadam, I don't need this. And I really felt like, you know, am I doing enough for the community? Am I doing enough for these people? I want to make sure that I don't have a taking mentality, that I have a giving mentality. And Hiranyakashipu has a taking mentality. His mentality is to take. Let the demigods starve. Let them serve me and let them starve. Okay. So I'm going to bring up one of my favorite.
It's similar consciousness with all the demons also. They are not giving their share of the demigods.
Yes.
All the other demons too.
Yes, that's right. All right. One of my favorite things to meditate on. It's long, so I'm putting it in the chat. So we have that the demons are afraid of the Lord's laughter. In 28, it says that Hiranyakashipu was closing his eyes out of fear of Nrsingadev's laughter. But if we turn to Bhagavatam 3:28-33, Lord Kapila Dev says, the laughter of Vishnu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine buds, rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. So why does the yogi, the devotee, like to meditate on the Lord's laughter, and why are the demons terrified of the Lord's laughter? Okay, Narada Rishi says a cat in the mouth and kitten in the mouth. Anyone else have any thoughts? Neelamani, whose picture has disappeared, are you there? At first you were there twice, and now you're not there at all. Are you there? We don't know. Ramananda Krishna Prabhu, what's your thought on this? About the Lord's laughter?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, same like here. Narada Rishi Dasi wrote the chat. Like it's a pleasure for a devotees. The child, when cat hold his kittens in the mouth. So this is a pleasure for a devotees, but it's a death for the rat. So the same idea I was having, Mataji.
Ramananda Krishna Prabhu, can you tell me some pastime you know about where Krishna is laughing that you like? You're laughing, thinking about Krishna. Very nice. Is there some laughing pastime you like?
I like Mataji, but I have never seen.
Any pastime you know of? Where the Lord's laughing? You can't think of any? Leela Madhuri Lalita, can you think of any pastime with the Lord's laughing that you like?
No, the moment you asked the question, I also started thinking of that, but I couldn't remember anything.
Oh my goodness. Kapila Dev says we should meditate on the Lord's laughter. We should get something. Do we have Neelamani? Neelamani, some laughing pastime.
I think one I can think of is when he's playing with the cowherd boys in Raj and Vrindavan, right? He's so much jovial and so much fun he's having. Sure, he's laughing at that time when they're playing pranks on the gopis and things like that.
Oh, can you tell me one of them? Tell me some specific prank where Krishna's laughing.
I mean, the one that comes to mind is when he, after breaking the pots of yogurt in one of the houses, and then the gopi catches him and takes him by his hand, Mother Yashoda, and he turns himself into actually her son, and Mother Yashoda says, who have you brought? So I don't know if he's blatantly laughing out loud, but I'm sure he's laughing inside. He's thinking, how I've tricked this gopi again, and then when he says, next time you catch me, I'll turn into your husband, kind of thing, right? So.
Oh yeah, that was definitely very funny, and I'm looking at the chats also. So many wonderful things are being put in the chat. Prema Manjari.
Yes, I would like to share from a well-known pastime of Krishna hiding in the box, the Chamatkara Chandrika. So when Abhimanyu is carrying the box, and he thinks that there are all the gifts for his wife, Shrimati Radharani, but in the box is Krishna, and he has a mischievous smile. he's smiling. And then also when Abhimanyu brings him to Srimati Radharani, and after he already gets out of the box, and then he is smiling and laughing, and then he says, "Oh, Srimati Radharani, I just came by this box, and I was very intrigued by its wonderful smell. So I just climbed inside to make myself nicely scented." And then he's laughing when speaking things.
Wonderful, thank you. And Hiranyakashipu would close his eyes and run away in fear at that pastime. Okay, Golokavasini, yes. You just put something in the chat. Do you also want to speak?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, Mataji, the same thing I wanted to.
Oh, about Vidura feeding him banana peels. Thank you. Abhirupa Malti.
When Duryodhan fell in the water pond.
I don't know if Krishna was laughing. So the women were laughing. Krishna did smile. I don't know if he actually laughed, but he did smile.
Yeah, Mataji. And he was stopping the queens not to laugh, but he was also smiling and
Yes, yes. Yudhisthira tried to tell the queens to stop laughing. And Krishna's like, no, let them laugh.
yes, Mataji.
Yes. Stuti Priya Radha.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Mataji, we are reading Canto 1 these days in our center, and there is this 11th chapter where Lord Shri Krishna, he is returning back to Dwarika, and he's reciprocating with, actually he's just entering Dwarika and he has his conch shell and he's blowing that, and all these residents of Dwarika, they are running towards him to give him gifts and all. And then he has that smita word is used there, where he is just giving that little smile and he is reciprocating with every individual in a different way how they want. And it is so beautiful. Same episode in Ramayana where he Ramayana also, and Krishna, when entering into the when he's coming to Mathura for the first time and he's going to fight with these two wrestlers, and when he enters that arena, he has that smile and he's reciprocating that same way with each individual. They all have that reciprocation. That's so beautiful. And one thing what I feel personally is when I look at my lords in the altar of my house, I find them smiling, and that's the world for me.
Woo-hoo! Wow, wow. Abhirupa Malti.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I remembered the incidents which has happened in Kusum Sarovar, where Radharani went to take some flowers. Krishna saw this, then he was sitting on the branch. And then suddenly he shifted from that branch so that Srimati Radharani hanged with this branch. And so Krishna laughed.
You are laughing, remembering Krishna's laughing.
Yes, yes.
Very nice. Very nice. Sham Kishore Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. So not exactly the example of laugh, but smile. And one of the ones that I like a lot is like in Bhagavad Gita, when Arjun, he is really down in the dumps, and he says, I will not fight. And before Krishna starts speaking, the first thing he does is he actually gives a smile.
Yes.
Gives a smile. And I find that very, very nice that Krishna is so comforting, and Krishna is always under control, that even when Arjuna is almost freaked out, Krishna starts with a smile first and then goes on to tell all the serious things in the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Sarita Gore, nice percent in the chat. Yes.
Can I say something? One of the example which we can see even today also is the sweet smile of Shri Shri Radharaman. And we can see his teeth also. Different days he shows different number of teeth.
Oh, very nice. I like what Prasant said in the chat. I'm also thinking how much Krishna laughed when Pandraka's messenger came. and said, I'm the real God, give me your weapons. And Krishna just cracks up. And everybody in the assembly, they're just laughing and laughing and laughing. Yes, Murari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. This is something in south of India, Tamil Nadu. There is a temple in Kumbakonam where there is so many very famous temple it is. In that, in one pillar, Krishna will be in the center. One square pillar, Krishna will be in the center. And one side, Rukmani will be there. Other side, Satyabhama will be there. Satyabhama cannot see Rukmani. Rukmani cannot see Satyabhama. Both of them on both the side of Krishna. Krishna will be in the center. That's a square corner of the pillar. They made it in a wonderful architecture on this thing. And Krishna will be smiling. And Krishna will be holding the hand of Rukmani, which Satyabhama doesn't know. But he will be putting other hand on the shoulder of Satyabhama. And he will be smiling. That it looks so, what type of smile? You should see that. I got a picture of that.
I go to Tamil Nadu regularly, but I've never been there.
It's
What's the name?
Kumbakonam. It is in
Can
Kumbakonam.
you spell that?
Kumbakonam, very near
This
to
is near
Tanjore.
Thanjavur, and also it is accessible through Srirangam also.
Yes.
Kumbakonam.
Yes. It's a wonderful temple. There are so many temples are there, very huge temples.
All right.
It is a wonderful
I
temple.
go there regularly, but I haven't seen that. Thank you. All right, I wanted to end with one last question. And so there's at least two of the prayers where they say, you know, that Hiranyakashipu ended up in our heart instead of you, Lord, because there are all these demons. And Prabhupada says in the purport that when there's so many demons in government, we may end up just thinking about the demons instead of thinking about Krishna. And this actually happens. Okay, this actually happens. I see it on social media. I hear it in discussion with devotees, you know, where they'll just be talking about the demons in government, or they may be talking about, you know, people who had position in ISKCON who ended up to be criminals or whatever, and they're just talking about that. And you'll never hear them talking about Krishna. And they're just always, this person, you know, did this sexual misbehavior, and this person stole this money, and this person, there's this conspiracy, and this, and that's, it's absorbing. All right. How can we stop thinking about demons when there are so many demons? The world is being run more or less. I mean, I'm sure there's also some good heads of government in the world. I'm sure there are. I don't think all of them are demons. But there's lots and lots of demons in government in the world. And we even have demons who infiltrate our Hare Krishna movement, just like demons infiltrated Krishna's pastimes and dressed up as cowherd boys. That's also true. That happens. Not often, thankfully, but it does happen. So how can we avoid to have our thoughts filled up with the demons? Anybody's thoughts on this as our last thing to meditate? Eat prasadam.
I didn't get the question, Mataji.
Okay, we'll scroll up in the chat. You'll see it.
Oh, okay.
Goloka Vasani?
Hare Krishna, yes, Mataji. Mataji, I was thinking by recognizing the demon in our heart, which there are a lot of demons in our heart. If we recognize those demons, then we will forget the demons outside. And we'll pray to the Lord to kill those demons which are in our heart.
Okay, nice. And Mahalakshmi said also thinking Krishna's going to kill the demons. Regularly having good Sangha and regularly talking about Krishna. My dear friends, I have a humble request for all of you. Make an effort to talk about Krishna. One of the things that I liked about teaching little children in a nursery school, I might have mentioned this in one of these classes, was that I could just talk about Krishna. I didn't have to worry about maths and science, and I could just talk about Krishna. If you have little children, talk to them about Krishna. People sometimes complain, oh, little children take so much time, I don't have time for sadhana, and I can understand that actually. If you have little children, you've got a really good excuse just to talk about Krishna. Read them books of Krishna stories. You know, if you can't, if adults are going to think you're weird, if you say, hey, you remember when Krishna was cracking up about Porndraka? And if someone else in the Hare Krishna movement is going to look at you like you're crazy for saying something like that, then go teach some classes to children. They won't think you're crazy. They'll just enjoy it. And find some friends that you can talk to like that. Find some people who really want to talk about Krishna and make an effort to talk more about Krishna. Otherwise, it's extremely easy in the name of service just to be talking about demons. It's very easy. It happened to the demigods, and it can happen to us too. So, of course, we have to say something about demons sometimes. They're also in the Shastra.
Mataji, can I ask a very quick question on this?
Maybe. It's 4 minutes after the...
Very quick. Most of the time we spend in our corporate, some of us spend most of our working life in corporate. There we would just be like, it's almost not okay to talk about God. And so is there like a stealth way or a cheat code way to talk about it without mentioning the word?
Ooh. Well, you know, Kamala Sita and I wrote this book, Krishna Meditations, about how to see Krishna in everything. And of course, Prabhupada's referenced that in this section with Nrsingadev, his hair moving the clouds around and so forth. It's possible with materialistic people where talking about God is not acceptable to talk about things in nature. And in your own mind, that's a meditation for you on Krishna. You may not be verbalizing that. But anything, you know, the temperature, the light, our ability. I mean, we list many of them there, but it's something where you may not outwardly verbalize that this is Krishna, this is Krishna's nails, you know, this is Krishna's smile, etc. But that's actually what's happening for you internally. So yes, there you go. We have an advertisement for the book. Look at that. They're never going to ask me back again. I'm advertising my books. No, it's not true. The VIHE, even when I teach the VIHE personally, they actually sell my books outside the door. So thank you all very, very much for coming and for tolerating me. I hope I haven't offended anybody. I hope that you all feel closer to Prahlad Maharaj and to Nrsingadev, and that you have a lot of food for thought, and that you feel that you're, as Prahlad Maharaj said, our rati for Krishna has increased. And thank you for this opportunity for me. So teaching these classes means not only the 2 hours teaching the class, but the 2 to 4 hours in preparation for each class. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity myself to go deeply into Shastra. It's something that I relish, and I'm extremely grateful for. And again, anything good in these classes is definitely coming from Srila Prabhupada and our Shastra, and not from me. Thank you very, very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Nrsingadev ki jai.